This video is sponsored by Apex Gaming PCs. They have teamed up with me to make 2 different PCs and you can customize both, so whatever your budget you can find and build a gaming PC and have it sent to you, and their support is super good. If you have any problems, you'll have someone designated to you to help you with anything that comes up. Check the link in the description to get yourself one this holiday period. It is time for another tier list, this time for Season 7. We have an entirely new map, a big change in the meta, and a new character thrown into the mix. So how do things rank up this season? How are all of the legends stacked up against each other? And who should you play? Let's jump into it. Now, once again, I always say this in my tier lists, you should play whoever you want to, whoever you feel the best with, because at the end of the day, all of the legends can do well and everyone can get good with any legend in this game. So unless you're playing like ALGS or super high level ranked, don't worry too much about this. However, if you're trying to play a good team composition in later games of ranked, then you're going to start to want to think about this list. So with that in mind, let's get into this. In Olympus, because you can travel around so freely, third parties happen a lot more. So the ability to move quicker is very important in this map. The ability to engage from larger distances and the ability to escape third parties is very important, and also the ability to engage on third parties is important as well. Defensive legends are good, but you have to commit to that playstyle, and they're always going to be valued more in the late game, which means you're going to have to survive the third parties in the early and mid games. So their value has dropped a little bit, and movement based legends have popped up in value. There are also some more options for long range engagement, so you'll see some decent changes to, say, Gibraltar for example. So with that in mind, let's jump into this list. First up in D tier, we have Rampart. Now, as much as I love Rampart, in fact, I think Rampart is really great as an individual legend when you're solo and you're trying to create 1v3 situations, and that's really great. But on Olympus, she does struggle a bit because there's a lot of places to get caught out in the open. If you're talking about high level ranked, Rampart's value really comes in her defensive potential, but there are just better defensive legends. Caustic and Watson are much more suited, and they're definitely going to stop players from pushing more than Rampart walls are. Even if you put Rampart walls smartly behind doors, it's just not really going to cut it. Now, the turret did get a nice buff this season, and it's definitely really useful in Olympus, a lot more useful than the other maps, because there's more opportunities for you to catch players out in the open, but when you put it down, you really got to be smart about that placement. So as much as I love Rampart and her kit, it needs some more work for her to really be feeling competitive at this point. Now we have C tier. We have first up Mirage. Mirage is that weird legend that just doesn't quite fit into any role. It's a bit strange. You can do really well with Mirage if you learn how to bamboozle well, and it's nice that he can now go invisible when reviving and respawning players. That is a very nice change. So he has that team play potential, but when you're actually all alive, he lacks any real team play power. Yes, you can always bamboozle people, but you know, he doesn't have any team play power. His movement is, you know, sure he can throw down his ult and kind of escape, but he doesn't have faster movement. He doesn't really have much team play utility, and that's why he's ranked lower. This leads us on to another legend that doesn't have much team play utility, Octane. Yes, Octane's jump pad may allow you to get some aggressive pushes, but with the way Olympus is laid out, you can pretty much get anywhere quite easily. There's so many different routes to take to get verticality on this map, and that kind of leaves Octane's jump pad feeling a little weaker, especially when you have Horizon's gravity lift as well. And that kind of leaves Octane's stim, which is great for being aggressive, pushing kills, or sometimes getting away, but the fact that it damages you means that people are going to probably chase you down, and you may just end up running into a third-party squad whilst you're lower on health. So Octane is fun to play, absolutely, but he doesn't really fit in very well with the ranked meta, which focuses heavily on, right now, team play, third-party potential, and the ability to get out of situations safely when third parties come in and close on your location. It's kind of hard for Octane to do that well. In B tier, we have first up Bangalore. Now Bangalore's ultimate now explodes a little faster, and this map's kind of more suited for her. There are going to be more situations where you're caught out in the open, and throwing down your ult is going to allow you to have safe passage to position through it, whilst other teams may feel not so fun to push through. You can throw it down in between you and enemies to create some distance, a very strong repositioning tool which is going to help your team a lot in ranked and high level play. As smokes can be useful to kind of give yourself a bit of of time to breathe and get out of situations as well. So there's some team play potential here. Yes, she doesn't have much movement based abilities. I know that her passive gives her a short amount of speed, but that's not going to allow you to disengage really. So you're going to need to rely on that ult and some good smoke placements to disengage fights. So that's always great. That's why she's kind of ranked lower, because without those abilities she lacks any movement. She lacks the ability to be aggressive in a fight as well. She's more of a repositioning and escape character. Next in B we have Loba. Now Loba's had sort of a big boost in power this season, and it's all based on her loot based abilities. Now of course I talked about how having movement abilities is really important in Olympus, so having that jump drive bracelet on her tactical is really useful. It's still a bit clunky, but being able to rely on at least some kind of movement to get out of situations is really going to be very good, so that's kind of valued higher in this map. But also her ability to just give her teammates as much ammo as they need is always going to help you, because late game ammo can become quite an issue, especially when you're having more long ranged fights and peaks and battles that happen quite a lot in the later stages of ranked gameplay. People are going to be peeking, shooting at you, trying to wear you down, make you lose your shield cells, and these battles of attrition kind of last longer now, especially that you can get shield batteries and the crafting things. So yeah, being able to feed your team ammo throughout the game is really helpful. The ability to land down and have 50% ult charge is also really big. I think it's 50%, so you're going to have that early game power, which is really great. Late game Loba does fall off a little bit, but once again you can carry your team to have better utility because of that ability to give your teammates ammo throughout the game very quickly and easily. Unfortunately, she lacks any sort of team play movement or engagement tools, and that is where she falls off and why she's not ranked higher. In B+, we have an interesting mix. Now, I talked about earlier how movement and third parties are sort of the core meta in this game, but defensive legends still do well, and if you commit to that playstyle, for sure you're going to be able to rank higher in the ranks, but you're going to need to be able to play the ring well, set up late game, and be prepared for it, because you're going to get caught out in the open by third parties in the early and the mid stages. So yes, defensive legends aren't S or A tier in this season in my opinion, but they are pretty well ranked, so we're going to put them in B+. So it's kind of hard to say, but I personally think that Caustic is a better defensive legend, but I've put Watson with Caustic in B+, because I think that if you can get some ultimate accelerants and you can set up late game, Watson's always going to be able to stop a push a little bit more than Caustic can. Watson is going to be able to help you to clutch top 2, top 3 placements better than Caustic. There are a lot of rings that will end where you're in buildings. That's going to give you a lot of potential to place higher in the ranks. Now, Caustic may help you in the final stages if you can really clutch out and stay in that end ring as it pushes on you. Caustic's ultimate is obviously going to help you get the win, but like I say, you've got to stay committed to the defensive playstyle to play Watson and Caustic in this meta, otherwise you're just going to be pushed and harassed by third parties. So really good legends if you can stick to that playstyle. We also have Crypto in B+. Now, we talked about how third parties are kind of like all over the place because it's so easy to travel in Olympus. So there's either two ways you can take this, right? You can either have a legend that's good at disengaging from third parties, or a legend that can deal with third parties or be the third party. And a well-timed Crypto ult is so good for stopping those fights, engaging on fights where players may be low, and sweeping up kills. So yeah, play Crypto if you want to be able to create third-party situations and get easy kills, especially through the mid-game. Now, what's interesting about Crypto is that although he doesn't have movement-based abilities, he can get into a situation and pick up people's banners and then revive them remotely. Now that's really useful, because we find in a lot of situations in Olympus, you'll just be overwhelmed with squads pushing you, and that may create situations where one of your teammates can survive and get out of a situation in all of the chaos, but two of them may get killed. So having Crypto there to kind of keep your team propped up and alive again, it's definitely going to be valuable. It definitely is going to be valuable. Finally, in B+, we have Lifeline. It's really coming down to her passive, right? That passive to be able to revive you in a fight is really useful. It allows you to just hold on and clutch on for a little bit longer. It really creates a lot of pressure for teams attacking you to try and make sure that that down player doesn't get revived. So it gives you a lot of power and control in fights. Really powerful, a really frustrating ability to play against. Obviously, Lifeline's sort of passive looting ability with the blue bins isn't that great now that you can craft meds anyway, but it does come in handy a little bit, giving her a little bit of extra looting potential. Her ultimate, once again, it's that sort of ability that gives you a bit more power at the early game, potentially allows you to get some higher level armor, which is nice now that the EVO requirements are kind of upped a little bit. But honestly, it's not as powerful as Aloba's looting potential. She's really being carried off of that passive healing. Now we're getting into the juicy stuff. In A tier, we have Revenant first. Revenant is going to be a very frustrating legend to deal with on this map because he is the third party king. You put down your totem, you push third party fights. If you die or things get too hectic, you can just back out again. A well placed totem on Olympus is going to help you to clean up fights, get kills easily, and then escape a situation once you're dead. I would say I feel like Revenant really does give you that value of being able to be the third party and also disengage from third parties when things get too crazy, because when you die as shadows, you don't have to commit back into the fight, you can just escape. So a well coordinated Revenant on a good team with good coordination is going to be very difficult to face against, and it's just really strong. It's really strong, but you do need that team coordination, and that's why Revenant isn't ranked higher. Revenant's personal abilities are also pretty bad. I mean, sure, he can crouch walk and climb higher, and that's kind of, you know, it's useful in very certain situations, but it's not really going to help you get fights. He doesn't have any mobility to help himself get out of a fight, but yeah, a very strong utility legend. You're definitely going to want to be playing with a coordinated team to do well with him, otherwise he, like, all of his power is gone and he would be ranked a lot lower. Next we have Gibraltar. Now, there are a couple of reasons why Gibraltar is really good this season. Firstly, you can engage from a distance a little bit better because, one, you can beat people with the arm shield a little easier. If you take damage from long range, it's not really going to be a big issue. That's really useful. You can throw ults down on fights to create good third-party engagement potentials. That's always really good. The dome shield is going to allow you to heal your teammates if they get knocked long range. Gibby is the legend that will help your squad be able to engage from a fight safely from long range, and then if you have a movement-based legend like Pathfinder or Wraith, that will then allow you to create a push after you've done enough damage. So you can safely engage in a fight without getting caught into the mix where tons of squads are going to come in and fight each other. That's really valuable. Gibraltar's also a massive tank, which is really going to help. The Dome Shield is also obviously going to be a very powerful ability for when you need to reposition. Let's say you have to go from point A to point B. There's 2 pieces of cover between you and those points that you need to get to. That's not really going to be enough. You might get caught out in the open more on Olympus, but that Dome Shield is going to basically serve as another piece of cover so that your team can move safely between locations. Now we have Horizon in A tier. Now I was wondering whether to put Horizon in S tier, but I'm going to play it conservatively. We don't really know her true potential in high level play yet. It's definitely going to be coming down to her ultimate. That's going to be sort of her team play ability. It's going to be able to create some very useful third party pushes on fights, or just engagements on fights in general. If you are well coordinated with your team, a Horizon EMP could help you quickly wipe down a squad, and that is really important in this map. You need to be able to take out squads quickly and then get out of the situation so that you're not swamped with third parties, whether they're using the Phase Runner or the Trident to get on top of you. You know, that's important. So an ability to quickly wipe a squad is great. That's really great. But Horizon's core kit comes down into her movement abilities. Both have passive and tactical merge really well to give Horizon players a lot of movement and control. Kind of consider it like a short range grapple, right? You have a short range grapple with a very quick cooldown, which allows you to completely run circles around your enemies. You're able to get into crazy situations and back out of it. With this tool, you're able to push situations with it, and your teammates can use it too. So it works as sort of like a makeshift jump pad at times, which is really useful. It's a very powerful ability, and I think that, as I've talked about a lot in this video, movement is really important. Being able to disengage from fights quickly is really important. However, it doesn't quite work as well as a phase shift or a grapple to really get yourself somewhere safe. So I think that's why we're going to keep Horizon A tier. Now in S tier, first up we have Bloodhound. In this video, I haven't really talked too much about the recon abilities, and they are important without a doubt. Being able to know where the end game ring is also going to be very important, so it's great to have that on Bloodhound too. One of the reasons why Bloodhound's so useful is because you're going to be able to quickly engage on a fight and know the locations of players, and basically just, if you're coordinated enough, take down those players together and understand the situation well enough so that you're not putting yourself into a situation where there's maybe like 4 teams in an area or something, because that can happen a lot in Olympus when people are fighting. So it really gives you that information you need to be able to know whether to push or not, whether to escape. That's really, really useful. Being able to scan after you finish the fight as well to make sure you're aware of any potential third parties is really useful as well. Bloodhound's ultimate is such a strong ability as well, and it's going to be able to provide you information for your team throughout an entire fight. So if teams keep coming in and in and in, you can just keep scanning and make sure that you're aware of what's going on around you. And of course, the movement speed on that is going to be able to give Bloodhound personal ability to escape any situation and potentially get out of fights and sort of stick it out for the team when your other teammates get downed. Next up, we have Wraith. Now, Wraith's here, as always. Once again, she's a very small character. She's the hardest character to hit. Even with the animation changes, it's still the same. Her ultimate, whilst it has a short range, is still a very powerful repositioning tool that's going to allow you to get your teammates out of situations. And what's really great about Wraith's ultimate is that you can get your downed teammates out of situations as well, which is going to happen a lot. You're going to get downed a lot from random third parties that you're not even aware of. So being able to have a quick repositioning tool to get your team to safety and healed up again is going to be really valuable. Wraith's passive is also really great. It makes sure that you're aware if there's a third party about to push you, because that happens a lot, as we've talked about many times in this video. So 2 very useful abilities to be able to disengage safely, or you can even use the ultimate to engage safely as well. Now, one of the reasons why Wraith is always going to maintain this position is her tactical allows you to reposition at a pretty decent distance, but the reason why it's so special is because when you use it, you are invincible. You cannot be shot at, which is going to buy you enough time for third party fights to resolve themselves, for your teammates to get in and help you, for repositioning to happen. It just buys you time, and that's so useful in this game. So overall, her kit just provides so much team play potential and some really core personal abilities as well. Finally, we have Pathfinder. Pathfinder is the king of mobility, and now that his cooldown on his grapple is a little bit more forgiving, this is so good. He's able to once again grapple himself away from teams and just keep kind of escaping, and it's really hard to chase down a Pathfinder player, so that is really great. You got that to disengage from fights when you're solo and you're trying to, clutch up some RP for your team. You have the zipline to reposition if you need to get out of fights. Yes, it's not the most powerful disengagement tool, but it can work at times, and it's also a very good way to engage into a fight and get some quick kills when a third party fight is about to end. You see players are killing each other, you want to quickly get in there and clean up those kills. That zipline speed and distance is going to help you do it. So overall, Pathfinder is a very strong movement based legend, and movement is so important in this season. And of course, he's got the recon perk as well, which is really nice to be able to know those late game rings. So yeah, that's it. That's my tier list for this season. I'll put the timestamp so you can kind of see it easier. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know your feedback, and I'll see you all in the comments. Cheerio!